One lolly is lethal to the lies of leftism. Two lollies is an intellectual downpouring of Agent Orange. And now your host, Rob Lolly.
The fear of God, the fear of something larger than you, most specifically the fear of having to pay an account to that, is really the glue that binds freedom. I know on the Atheist Radio channel when I make videos like that, and when I talk about that to secular extremists and atheists, they're driven mad like that. I'm like, there is no liberty without God. There is no liberty without God. And they're just so angry, it seems to be such an oxymoron to them. But it's very true. It's the premise of the United States. If you don't have a self-police system in the human conscience, it doesn't work, because freedom is just people just go might makes right, and you just get craziness going on. You have to feel like internally you will pay an account for the evil you do without the police state, without the BO government, without the nanny, Janet Napolitano breathing down your neck. You need to think that this stuff that's wrong is wrong regardless of the state. It all starts with that premise, and you look at the world in a certain way, depending on how you look at that equation. How do you, in other words, the statists, the people that were the French Revolution, the Stalin regime, and all these men, they had no interest in hearing about how God was going to change the hearts of man and refine them. They thought, no. It starts and it ends with us. And so we, the elite, the powerful, the chosen, will herd the masses, because that's the only way we can cure this poverty of man. So if you start with a godless premise, the irony is, of course, you become red in tooth and claws, you become violent, you become manipulative, and you justify it all because you're God, because you're the puppeteer. If you believe in God, you trust in man because you know God is doing the work in man, and you're not going to do that. And you also respect the freedom and the individuality of man. So it's all they're completely wrong. They're completely topsy-turvy. They're completely on their head. But it's funny because when you talk to them, when they look at it, when they see God, they see ball and chain. When they see God, they see limitation. So when you start talking about God and liberty in the same sentence, they get put on tilt. And they just can't mentally deal with it. And then I've seen it time and time again. Now the founders knew it. They just knew it. You know what I mean? They were soaked in Locke and all these guys who had set up this system in their head, and they were also godly people anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that part's kind of been rewritten, which is why people don't understand why they chose to set it up the way they set it up. Like anything, people think if it's this way now, it's always been this way. So they just put whatever through the prism of wherever they're at. They think the rest of their history, but they don't realize that the whole time period and the whole American experiment, the mindset was different, and they would never have been able to accomplish what they did back then now, because there is
no they wouldn't. And that's what's so frightening about seeing it dissolve. America is the exception. It's not the rule, it's the exception. And of course, if you're well-traveled or even quasi-traveled, you know that because you've seen that. But Americans don't know that. We think we are, just like you said, the birthright.
We are the modern-day Noahs that are telling people. We're the modern-day, Abraham trying to save Lot and his family. I mean, I don't know if that age group, 16, 17, 18, 19 is the age group, or even younger, but I do have hope that this hedonism will be so unappealing to them, and you'll have maybe 50 years worth of just emptiness, that maybe the revival will take place in that generation. So
it is true. I mean, eventually the depravity of man will collapse under the weight of itself. But like you said, there'll be a good half millennia lost until humanity crawls out of that.
That's the chunk of time that we've been allotted. I mean, we had a nice start, but that was on the tail end of something. Maybe the economy was good, but the moral standing has already been rotting away. You can't separate the two. I know people would love to do that. People who are smart enough to be fiscally conservative, but not immoral people, would love to say, well, capitalism, which is the perfect system, which is the best and most free economic system, would be fine without morality. But in actuality, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. No, it doesn't work.
The only thing that would make a person not be greedy for greed's sakes would be the fact that, take Chick-fil-A, for example. I mean, how much more perfect can you get? But if you don't go into a Chick-fil-A and notice that the whole entire organization is different than any other organization, you're a fool. But they're also successful. They're all
right.
Taco Bell may have a chain on every other block, but you go in there and they have contempt for you